Go ahead, Bill.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the San Francisco Playhouse, our community's empathy gym. Welcome. Normally I'd be in the theater and there'd be a couple hundred people in the theater and everybody would let out a little cheer. Tonight I'm on one of our weekly TV shows, and but we have, instead of having a full house, we have houses full of people who are sort of craving some contact to performing arts, some way to stay connected to live theater. And of course, this is one of the things we've been doing. It's one of our weekly TV shows. But before I go any further, I want to take just a minute to honor the Ohlone people who lived on this land for so many centuries before we came, and who shepherded and stewarded it in such a beautiful, gentle way. I'd just like to take a moment to feel that presence and to thank them and honor them. So this is one of our two weekly TV shows. We do on Monday nights, we do our series of Zoomlets. And on Thursdays, we have been doing interviews with some of San Francisco's and the nation's and even the world's greatest playwrights. There are so many playwrights, but for some reason, I feel like maybe we should branch out a little bit. And so tonight, we're going to take a little step in a slightly different direction. We're going to interview one of America's great directors, Tony Award-winning director, and the artistic director of American Conservatory Theater, Pam MacKinnon. Welcome, Pam.
Hey, nice to be here, Bill. This is great.
Good. So tell me about your glasses.
Well, these, I discovered in April, I was starting to have a lot of headaches, vis-a-vis a lot of Zoom meetings back to back. So these glasses both help me read. I'm of that age where I need a little assistance reading, but even more importantly, they block the blue rays, I'm told, from a computer. So headaches are fewer and far between.
So that the fact that I feel like my brain has been slowly deteriorating after 8 hours of Zoom meetings today would be alleviated if I got some of those.
I'm telling you, they've made a world of difference, like truly.
Yeah, I just feel like it. I feel like Zoom just kind of drains you of everything you are and will ever be.
Yeah.
It's just tiring. So
I mean, I now have a standing. So I'm talking to you from our dining room in Pacific Heights, and it was supposed to be a dining room, but of course now it's like, the office. It's Command Central. And so perched on top of the dining room table is like an elevated desk. For the first couple of months I sat, and that was even more enervating, but at least now I can shift.
That's good. You can float like a butterfly. Yeah. Do a little dance step back and forth, stretch the back. That's good.
Yeah. So the standing desk has come home.
Well, I've been doing that. I do it at my bar. I'm sitting now because I got my little television studio set up here.
Fireside chat.
The fireside chat. There's the fire right behind us, and a picture of my daughter Lauren on the wall, who was in one of your shows recently. That was quite a time when you had two shows.
Two shows shut down in the middle of March. Yeah, Lauren was in Gloria, and I was at opening Tony Stone, a play that had been in my life for a lot of years. And opening night for Tony Stone became closing night. So Wednesday, March 11th.
Yeah, I guess it's good.
On the 12th to shut everything
down. It must feel good to have got it open, though.
Yeah, we had 6 performances. I mean, it was definitely a celebratory moment, but it did in retrospect, we were crazy people because we were in tech, we were in previews, like the pandemic was all around us, but because we were so focused on the task at hand, I just, it was sort of a surprise to me, and I think to the acting company, how serious it was.
It was a surprise. It was just like an avalanche, that this rumbling you hear up in the mountains, and then all of a sudden it was on us,
Yeah.
We were in tech for Real Women Have Curves. So we didn't get to open it because we just were about to do our 2 10 of 12s.
Wow.
And it was just it was a little earlier than that, but nobody wanted to come. It was like everybody was starting to be afraid.
Yep.
Our sound designer didn't want to take Bart. Our costume designer was scared to go shopping because she had to go out to Target and get a bunch of little stuff, And so we just looked at each other and went,
right, called it.
That's it. Because if we'd been able to get to a dress rehearsal, we could have filmed it.
Right.
at least, you know,
Yeah.
but alas.
We were about to be in rehearsals for Rocky Horror.
Oh, yeah.
And so the director, choreographer, Sam Pinkelton, said, I can actually do it with 1 week less rehearsal. So let's not call it yet. Let's just not go into rehearsal and see if this shakes down in a different way. And then eventually we had to call it.
Yeah.
For the rest of the season, you know.
Yeah.
Wild.
And
yeah. And, you know, and because it was also devastating and weird, it feels like if you woke me up from a sound sleep and said, you know, that was last week, I would probably believe you.
Yeah, no doubt. It feels like some sort of time warp, time travel, time warp thing, this whole 7 months now. Is it 7 months?
Yeah, even more than that. Yeah.
7 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
But here we are. We're surviving, you know. ACT is surviving. Why don't you tell us some of the things that you guys have been providing for your
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, a big part of ACT is the MFA actor training program. And so our production wing has really been focused on that. And it's all been live virtual theater. It started in September with actually an encore presentation of a show that we put up in the spring that would have been in person, but then the spring disappeared on us. So Peter J. Quo directed a Madri Shekhar play in Love and Warcraft, and it was so inventive online. Like it was just Peter firing on all cylinders. It was actually then our first year, half of our first year class, and it was just joyous. I mean, it was, you know, it's a play about these sort of 20 somethings, college students. So like a really good fit for this acting company. And
they're all kind of buried in their own screens anyway, right?
Yeah. And, you know, and that's sort of what this is about. It's about a gamer who's afraid to fall in love in the real world, but unafraid in the virtual world. And so it went really well. And it was also then very new, like no one was doing live virtual theater. And Leslie Ishii, who actually went to ACT as an acting student a long time ago. She's now the artistic director up at Perseverance Theater in Juneau, Alaska. Oh, she fell in love with this production and approached us through Peter about wanting to co-produce it, which is another, you know, we look for these silver linings. So another silver lining, I mean, it's a much smaller theater, but in this moment, scale sort of means nothing. So we co-produced it and brought it back in September. So that was our first production. And since then, we've had 3 others. And they're now all available still, you know, on demand. We did them live and had very few performances. And some of it is, you know, also just like pedagogically, we want our actors to continue to have that, okay, this is your half-hour call, 5 minutes to curtain, you know, kind of experience, and get them shot out of the cannon, used to that. So a live virtual experience, both for them, as importantly as for our audiences, but now we have these on-demand windows. So you can, you know, watch a play at 1 a.m. or watch it on your phone or however you want to consume this theater. So that feels really energizing. The student actors are fantastic. These last 3 plays that are now available on demand were all directed by Bay Area directors, Shannon Davis, Dawn Monique Williams, and Jessica Holt. Great design teams, all local designers. I mean, so that's been very gratifying. You know, I'm still, you know, this is what, I'm now 2 years into being an artistic director in the Bay Area, still getting to know, you know, people in the scene. And it feels really gratifying as to be a producer and an employer and to get to know more people in the local scene, which is exciting.
We're a resilient bunch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, and so this kind of production pace actually will just continue at ACT. We're also gearing up, you know, we do the big Christmas Carol in the Bay.
Yeah.
We're doing this year's Christmas Carol will be on air. So a radio version, and Jim Carpenter is reprising his long-standing role of Scrooge. Oh, and then he's surrounded by 3rd-year MFA class. So 12 actors. And it's, you know, we're stepping into that really soon, because that takes some time to edit. Jake Rodriguez is the sound designer and editor. And so we'll lay that down and turn that into something really, evocative, and that kind of, image of a little bit throwbacky, of the family gathering around the radio to enjoy a story. And with the story that we're putting out there, we're also creating a Christmas Carol activity book that will have like word games and have prompts that you can follow, like the script along, and at this moment ring some bells, or take a drink, or run around 3 times, like things like that. So we're turning it into an experience.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Yeah, that's terrific. We're also kind of just focusing on the fall. In other words, we picked 3 shows to do in what we're calling Act 1 of our season.
Yep.
Act 2 is after that.
Right.
And like you said, after the election, because the election is sort of a looming thing. Yeah, you were saying that you were talking to a designer who didn't even really know how to tell the people what you told me about.
Yeah, I mean, to put on a play, it's great to have, a great deal of lead time, right? So you initiate conversations with your collaborators as a director. And the more time I am given as a director, the more time I will use to have creative conversations en route to going into rehearsal, en route to the audience coming. So, we have a lot of lead time right now. I mean, ACT right now is scheduled for the first in-person production to be Chris Chen, and I know you know that playwright. Chris Chen's play The Headlands, and it would be audiences right at like the top of June. So that's a substantial lead time. So as I mentioned to you, I was in conversation with a wonderful composer and sound designer. And at the end of our first creative conversation, he said, well, what's the next step? And I said, well, I think we have to get over the election. Like there's something about this particular election and the state of the country / world right now. I have to remind myself that we're actually in an industry-wide shutdown during a worldwide pandemic that makes theater dangerous. So, I feel like there is no leadership at the national level, and that's not feel like, I know there's no leadership at the national level, which has just aggravated everything. So let's see what this huge election holds, and then let's know what kind of conversations to have.
Yeah.
I feel that is the next step in what we're trying to do. I mean, I am definitely energized by live video theater and by talking to you. And, I can go from one meeting and then all of a sudden a fireside chat at SF Playhouse. And, later I can be on the phone, with someone in Alaska. Like, it's just like, boo, 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 boo. Like, geography means nothing. Scale of theaters, all video.
We've been doing
I'm eager to get back in person.
Yeah, we all are. Well, we're just about ready to be able to put the actors in person.
Yeah, that's great. That's
first time since the pandemic.
Awesome.
And, we're testing everybody and retesting everybody and protocols. And it's incredibly complex. And Susie's just running herself to death trying to make all the stuff around it happen.
Yeah.
Hiring camera people, hiring things. And it's just, it feels like we're working harder and moving more faster than ever. The tempo of it seems and of course our staffs are all smaller. So you're wearing more hats.
Yeah.
Because you don't have an assistant for this and an assistant for that and an assistant for these,
Yeah.
But it's fun.
And I know all of us are also taking really seriously and taking, I think big steps, in sort of the ongoing work to racial justice, stepping into big work about inclusion and, diversity. And so that, I feel like some people, have characterized this, moment of, well, it's an intermission. So now you can reflect on the bigger thing. And it's like, oh dear God, no, it's just a very, very busy time.
It's a play within a play.
Right. Well, and to hopefully also crack open our field.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, about how how it's impacted ACT and the kind of commitments you all have made to each other and to the community to work on these things?
Yeah, I mean, I think, ACT has been and is this is, technical language at this point, a predominantly white institution, right? And in a city that has, incredible, diversity with respect to, income, ethnicity, culture. And it's time for our stages, and not just the actors, not just the people on our stages, but the bigger surround to reflect that. And to also make sure that everyone who enters our spaces, whether that's a classroom, whether that's an office space, whether that's a stage, whether that's a lobby, feels real ownership and feels really welcome. So one of the first things that Jennifer Bielstein, my co-leader, executive director, and she and I started at the same time, we stepped into a strategic plan and really started to look at the purpose and the mission and the values, and to craft language and get buy-in with staff and the board, and to really well, what are we? And why do we exist? And what are our values? And let's state them. Let's put them outside of ourselves.
I think that's really critical, just that we know our purpose.
Yes.
And we know our purpose, and that we can put it into words that everyone can understand, and that those words will guide our decisions, guide our choices, guide our shows we pick, guide the people we choose to work with, guide the way we sort of try to build an audience too, which I think is the most daunting part of it.
Yeah. Well, and you've been in the Bay running a theater for a lot of years. What do you think, like the secret to, let's talk about audience. Like how do you get a representative audience in, from the Bay Area into your theater?
It's really hard, it's really hard. You're interviewing me now. Yeah. Well, I noticed that material, when we produce material that's from diverse communities, then we get the diverse audience. When we did King of the Yees, and I think the same may have been true with the other Lauren Yee play.
Yeah, we did The Great Leap around the same time. Yeah.
Right, back to back. Yeah. Well, our 34% of our audience was Asian. It was like so dramatic. And it's really hard to do that, and it seems like other communities within our community don't respond so well to all of a sudden the white community does the play about, this particular ethnicity's experience. They aren't, who are you? Why should I go there? I don't know whether I'd feel comfortable there. Blah, blah,
well, that's
blah.
it, right? I mean, you have to both do it as well as commit to doing it,
Yeah.
as well as build trust, as well as re-up that trust.
Yeah.
And that takes time, and it takes intention. It's not just about the programming. It's not just about the actors on the stage. It really is about, of really, really committing and, and making sure sort of from the ground up that the commitment is real and you're welcoming. Yeah.
You talked about they're doing CoPro with the perseverance, right? Perseverance. Preservation? No, perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to do quite a lot of that. I think we're going to co-produce with some of the smaller theater companies that, compared to you, we're small, but smaller than us.
Yeah.
And just invite that audience, and invite the directors and the actors and the technicians from smaller groups that have core audiences which are non-white, and just hopefully we build audience for everyone, by doing that. So the CoPro is going to be a big.
That's great. And are these co-productions with Bay Area theaters or sort of nationwide?
Yeah, well, no, I haven't done too much nationwide. I think we're about at the point where more nationwide theaters will take us seriously, or we can play on the same playing field with some of the bigger Lord theaters, technically, but no local
Right.
at this point. Yeah, but there's a couple things in the works that haven't announced yet, but I think it'll be really exciting.
Fantastic. I mean, you have such a great space. I mean, it's so, I feel we're in the, ACT and SF Playhouse in the same neighborhood. And,
Definitely.
I'm a city kid. I like that downtown corridor,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah, I think that it's such a big challenge, and I'm really excited. I just feel like there's a whole spirit of hallelujah in my heart for the possibilities of making our work more representative of the community we're serving. You know,
Yeah.
which really we damn well better, because we're called a nonprofit because we
Yeah,
serve the community. We don't serve the community, then
yeah.
you know,
Well, then we're a club, right? Then we're a supper club. Yeah.
maybe that's how I feel. What I feel like, I don't want to feel like that.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to be the club for wealthy white people.
Right.
I mean, I'm white, you're white, but I don't want that. Yeah. So I wonder, because it's like, I sort of just sometimes describe the artistic director role as being the shaman. You have to have the antenna, and you put up these antenna that sort of your intuitions, your instincts, and I think it's kind of a non-intellectual pursuit, honestly. The choice is artistic director picks the plays. That's
Well,
basically.
but I also surround myself with a lot of really great people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to even like make that circle wider. I also feel strongly. I remember like long before I was an artistic director, reading, what is the name of it? Well, Ilya Kazan's book about directing. Like, it's this big tome, and he's a very, entertaining writer, and,
It's a great book.
fascinating but problematic, figure, right? And he was the first artistic director at Lincoln Center Theater. And this is after, directing Marlon Brando and Sales, in Streetcar, and, On the Waterfront, and, so a big Broadway and movie director. And he becomes an artistic director of Lincoln Center, and, wanted to direct something that no producer would think of him for. And he decided he wanted to direct a Greek tragedy, thought the scale of it was right, for the theater space that was now going to be his artistic home. And he recalls in this book, day 2 of rehearsal, recognizing, oh, I'm so not the director for this. And I think about that as an artistic director, that I'm number one, I'm not going to direct every show we put on. That's a given.
Sure.
But also, number 2, I also don't have to have, I have to definitely have belief in it. I have to have some kind of, like, as you said, a little, like a gut kind of affinity for it, but it doesn't have to be my aesthetic. And
No.
It doesn't have to be something that I, have an immediate yearn for. It maybe goes back to what we were talking about community, like why this show right now, and for whom.
Right.
And for whom
Exactly.
includes me, but is not exclusive to me.
No, but I mean, it still comes down to, the buck stops at your desk when it comes to the choices, and you're going to be judged by the success of your choices ultimately over time. So it's like, I'm just trying to project into the future, and as you feel this time we're in, and feel the future is like, what will the people need? What do the people want to see?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, it's really hard right now because it also just feels really hard right now because I don't exactly know what time frame we're talking about. Like, normally there is something of a rhythm, and I don't, we have plans, and we've made public plans, and but the world seems to be changing so fast right now in some respects, and then is on this kind of pause in other respects. It's hard to figure out.
It's very hard. It's like building a house on sand,
Yeah.
or quicksand or something like that. But I think
Yeah.
I try to visualize that, when people come back to the theater, I just feel like they're going to want meat, they're going to want big stories with big conflicts and people torn between equal and opposite bad alternatives,
Yeah.
just feels like it's not going to be a time for, but then again, maybe we'd love to go see an old Coward comedy as well. Right.
Right. I mean, I feel like music is going to be important.
Yeah.
And that isn't to say, a bunch of musicals, but I do feel like there's something in plays with music, or, like that kind of exploration. It feels, it definitely keys into something that I'm needing right now. And I do think that music can elevate a moment and sort of carry story forward in a way that we might very well want.
Or need. Yeah. It's like trying to build a sense of unity. Just, I like finding stories that are universal, that everyone can identify with, hopefully. And yet, of course, you're trying to serve different communities too. So, but the future. So what is your next directing? What are you going to direct the Chris Chen play in the?
Yeah. So I'm directing Chris Chen's play The Headlands, which takes place in San Francisco, has a big video cinematic component to it. It's a noir story. Right? Is this man, probably mid-30s, and he is an amateur sleuth, and he introduces a cold case file at the beginning of it, and you learn really quickly in the telling of this story that it's actually a cold case of his father's murder. And he thinks that he can dispassionately talk us through it, in a way that a noir protagonist or narrator should, but it gets very complicated. And his memories of childhood right before his father was killed replay and twist as he gets closer and closer to the truth. I think it's a very compelling play. It's a play that has a lot of video, which was, another reason to sort of pick it in this moment. Because if we wind up, needing to stream or capture it in some sense, I think that capture would have great integrity as well.
Sure. So I remember Chris telling me that he was working on it, and they did it at Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center, yeah, and that was a show that had, I think it opened but didn't have its complete run.
Oh,
shut down. Yeah.
Oh. So it was one of the closed.
Yeah, a show in March.
Yeah, a March theater show. Yeah.
So that's really the next time that I'm directing a full production.
So you're already working with designers and
having those conversations, the initial conversations. It was fun. We on what is the radio station? It's KLAW. Is that a radio station?
KALW. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. There was a show, and they've been featuring like little grabs of plays done live. And when we gathered together a great cast, and read the first 12 pages live on the air. And it was really cool, and the radio moderator, said later, this could be a radio play. We didn't need any stage directions, because there is this unreliable narrator through it. It really lends itself well to hitting the ear. So
you got a few avenues you can go in, if in fact we're still not seating people in May. I mean, who knows? I assume we will.
Who knows? Yeah, me too. And that's the plan. I mean, it's full, it's full steam ahead, and we will, we will plan accordingly. And then of course it's all about safety. At a certain point, it's all about safety. We'll figure it out.
Well, I read in the paper, I think it was either on a government website, maybe a city government website. There was a whole list of things people could do and things people can't do, and stores that people can go to, and kinds of ways in which people can assemble and ways in which they can't. And it said that they were allowing indoor religious ceremonies, religious services, and I think the word was cultural ceremonies.
Okay.
At 25% capacity. So are they? I think,
Yeah.
and I think, well, wait a minute. We're a cultural celebration,
Yeah.
and so I called up the city and said, you know, what the fuck? You know, I think we are a cultural celebration. We're not a bar mitzvah, but we're a cultural celebration. And they said, oh, we'll get back to you, and they haven't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there does seem to be at the state and local level some kind of, well, lack of awareness about theater. I think number one,
Complete.
and number two, I think we need to. We're talking about this actually. A group of artistic directors that Theater Bay Area gathers. I think you're sometimes able to come. I mean, I'm not at every meeting either, but this past week. Brad Erickson was talking about having had a meeting like at the state level, and you know, and theater was really hard to get people to pay attention to. But there does seem to me something about we need to, for the moment, and it sounds like you've done this with art, to at least for the moment clarify that we're not even talking about audiences right now.
Right.
Like, can we even gather to make the thing? Right. We will figure out as really, you know, innovative artists how to deliver it to our audiences. Mm-hmm. And then step by step, in the same way that other industries are opening step by step, we will bring in more people, but not until it's safe. But right. I think right now there's a sticking point of like theater is like in phase 4, because there's an assumption that
along with giant rock concerts.
Right, exactly. There's an assumption that it's like the 1,000-seat theater running at capacity. But that's actually not what we're asking or talking about at this point. And we won't until it's safe.
Whenever that may be. Well,
but I do think divorcing it from, you know, people imagining, you know, the tour of Annie that they saw when they were 12, you know, of like that size of venue, we have to remind them, no, this is actually, kind of an essential gathering place. Yeah.
Well, it is. It's a cultural celebration. It's like, come on, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe I should. I don't actually want to push it, because I actually don't actually feel that those people should, that 25% of the congregation should be going inside to a closed space.
I agree. And that's actually why I don't think we should tie ourselves to the churches and religious services at this point. I'd like to tie ourselves, and it sounds like this is what you're doing with art, tie ourselves to that small, very careful, bubble-like TV filming. Like, we can tie ourselves to that at this point.
Yeah. Well, we've been doing these little Monday night things where we take a 10, 15-minute play, but they're director driven. So the director picks the cast and talks to the audience about its purpose and their vision of it. And then the actors read it, and then they talk about it afterwards. How did it go? What did you think? What would you do? Okay, here's a note. Let's do it again. Yeah. So in an hour, we do them twice and have conversations after both readings. And people just love it. They just love it. We've been getting 300-400 people coming to these, you know, signing up for them, because they're just, they get a little bit of taste of the process of what goes on behind the play.
Amazing.
I think that might be something good for people to see when they see inside, and they get.
Yeah. Sounds like a bit of a nightmare to me. It sounds like a grad school audition. Sounds scary.
Oh, it is a little scary. I think they are a little scary. I think they're a little frightening, but I think most people that do them have had fun with them.
Yep.
You know, because you just have to wing it.
Yeah, it's the real rehearsal. Yeah.
It's just like a first read, you know. Well, thank you so much. That was really fun.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And great to see you as always. You're right. It's like we have a coffee every 3 months, so we've been overdue. This is good.
Yeah. Well, we can do that too. I'm in the city, you know. They have coffee shops with outdoor tables, and, you know.
That's true.
And croissants and such.
Yep.
So I will look you up.
Right.
One day when I'm in our hood, right?
Nice. Great to see you. Great to chat.
Good luck with the Headlands. He's such an amazing writer, and I just adore him. And I know you do too. So much fun to work with.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Pam.
Bye-bye.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
And thank you all for joining us at the Fireside Chat with America's Greatest Directors tonight. And we hope you will tune in again. Next Monday, we're going to, in our series of Zoomlets, we're going to start a series of short plays by Native American writers. And we're going to do 2 or 3 of them in a row. And the first one is going to be a play called Flight by Delana Studi. And so we hope you'll tune in Monday night. Those of you who donated to this event, thank you very much. You'll have another opportunity to do that when you get the thank you for attending email tomorrow. So once again, thank you so much for joining us at our Fireside Chats, and hope to see you soon.
Great job, guys. That was awesome.